Adam Schefter just dropped a report that could quietly reshape the Seattle Seahawks defense, and almost nobody noticed it. A proven veteran is suddenly available, a contender is lurking, and the timing feels way too perfect to ignore. This isn't just a rumor, it's an opportunity. But the real twist behind this move changes everything. Adam Schefter dropped a report that most fans completely missed, but if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, this could be the moment everything changes. Because behind the scenes, this isn't just another random trade rumor. This is the exact type of opportunity Seattle has been quietly preparing for. For weeks, maybe even months, the Seahawks haven't made the kind of flashy moves fans expected. No big-name signings, no desperate splashes in free agency, and to some people that felt confusing, even frustrating. But what if that silence wasn't hesitation? What if it was strategy? Look closer and it starts to make sense. John Schneider has been holding onto valuable draft picks instead of spending them recklessly. The front office has preserved cap space instead of overpaying in a competitive market. And under Mike Macdonald, this team has made one thing very clear: every move must fit a bigger vision, especially on defense. This is not a team building for someday, this is a team building to win right now. And that's where things get interesting. Because when a proven veteran suddenly becomes available, when the price is lower than expected, and when the fit aligns perfectly with your system, that's when smart teams strike. The Seahawks aren't reacting, they're waiting. Waiting for the right player, the right price, the right moment. And now all three might be lining up at once. Because if Seattle makes this move, it's not just about adding depth. It's about sending a message to the entire league that they're not just contenders, they're going all in. But the player at the center of this could be a bigger risk than anyone expected. The Seattle Seahawks might look like a complete contender on the surface, but there's a problem nobody's really talking about, and it's sitting right in the middle of their defense. Because ever since Rick Woolen left, this secondary hasn't felt the same, and deep down, the front office knows it. At first glance, the numbers don't look terrible. You still have young talent, you still have guys who can step in and make plays. But when you dig a little deeper, especially in high-pressure situations, third downs, red zone snaps, late-game drives, that's where the cracks start to show. Consistency becomes a question, trust becomes a question. And for a team that's now operating in a Super Bowl window, that's not a small issue, that's a dangerous one. Because here's the reality: championship defenses don't gamble on uncertainty. They don't rely on maybe this guy develops or maybe this rookie figures it out. They lean on players who have already been tested, players who have already proven they can handle the moment when everything is on the line. Right now, Seattle's cornerback room feels incomplete, not broken but not fully reliable either. And that puts the front office in a tough spot. Do you trust the draft and hope a young player can step in immediately, or do you go out and get someone who's already done it before? Because if they get this decision wrong, it doesn't just affect one position group, it could impact the entire defense. One missed assignment, one blown coverage, one moment too big for an unproven player, and suddenly a Super Bowl run starts slipping away. That's why this situation matters more than people think. It's not just about replacing talent, it's about stabilizing a defense that can't afford mistakes anymore. And the scary part, Seattle might not have as much time as they think. But the solution to this problem might be hiding in plain sight, and it could change everything overnight. When people hear the name Kenny Moore, the reaction isn't usually loud. He's not the flashiest player, he's not constantly trending, and he's definitely not the type of name that instantly dominates headlines. But that's exactly why so many people are overlooking just how valuable he really is. Because Moore isn't built on hype, he's built on consistency. Over the years with the Indianapolis Colts, he's quietly become one of the most reliable defensive backs in the league. Not just in one role, but in multiple. Slot corner, outside coverage, nickel packages, he's done it all. And in today's NFL, that kind of versatility isn't just useful, it's essential. Think about it, offenses are more complex than ever. Motion, mismatches, quick reads, quarterbacks are constantly trying to exploit weak links, and that's where Moore stands out. He doesn't give offenses easy targets. He doesn't break under pressure. In fact, in some of the most critical moments, especially in the red zone, he's been one of those players quarterbacks actively try to avoid. And that says everything. He's also not afraid to get physical. Moore consistently racks up tackles, steps into run support, and creates disruption in ways that don't always show up in highlight reels, but absolutely show up on game film. Coaches love that, teammates rely on that. But here's the part most people miss. Moore doesn't need to be your number one corner to change your defense. He thrives in that flexible, do-it-all role, the piece that connects everything together. The kind of player who makes everyone else's job easier without demanding the spotlight. And for a team like Seattle, that's exactly what makes him so dangerous as an addition. Because you're not asking him to carry the defense, you're asking him to complete it. And when you add a player like that to an already strong unit, the impact isn't just noticeable, it's immediate. But even with all that value, there's one reason teams might still hesitate, and it could change everything. Here, where this situation flips completely, and why it's not just a good move for the Seattle Seahawks, it might be an easy one. Because when you hear about adding a proven veteran like Kenny Moore, the first assumption is always the same: it's going to be expensive. Big name, big role, big price tag, that's usually how it works in the NFL. But this time it doesn't. Moore is entering the final year of his contract, set to make around $9 million. For a player with his experience, versatility, and production, that's actually a very manageable number. Not a bargain bin deal, but nowhere near the type of contract that limits your flexibility or forces tough financial decisions elsewhere. Now look at Seattle's situation. This team still has over $30 million in available cap space. That means they're not just capable of making this move, they can absorb it comfortably without sacrificing future plans. No restructuring chaos, no cutting key players, no long-term risk hanging over the franchise. And that's the key part, there's almost no long-term risk. If Moore comes in and performs at a high level, you've just added a reliable piece to a championship-caliber defense. If things don't work out, you're not locked into a massive deal, you move on cleanly. Simple as that. That kind of flexibility is rare, especially for a team in a win-now window. It also aligns perfectly with how John Schneider has been operating. Smart spending, controlled aggression, no desperation moves, just calculated decisions that maximize value without overcommitting. And this is exactly that. You're potentially getting starter-level production, veteran leadership, and defensive versatility, all without putting your financial future at risk. For a contender, that's not just smart, it's dangerous. Because when the cost is this reasonable and the upside is this clear, the real question isn't, can you afford it? It's why wouldn't you do it? But even with the money making perfect sense, the real gamble isn't financial, it's something far less predictable. This is where the entire situation starts to feel almost unreal for the Seattle Seahawks, because the biggest surprise isn't just that Kenny Moore is available, it's how cheap he might actually be. Normally, when a proven veteran corner hits the trade market, especially one with years of consistent production, the price climbs fast. Teams start bidding, draft picks disappear, and suddenly what looked like a smart move turns into an overpay. But this time, the leverage just isn't there. Moore is 30 years old, he's entering the final year of his deal. And most importantly, both he and the Indianapolis Colts have already made it clear they're ready to move on. That changes everything. Because the moment a team signals they're willing to part ways, the market shifts. Buyers gain control. Around the league, the expectation isn't a premium pick. It's not a second-rounder, it's not even a mid-round gamble. The conversation is centered around late day 3 value, something like a 5th or even a 6th-round pick. Think about that for a second. You're potentially trading a pick that may never even turn into a reliable starter for a player who has already proven he can perform at the NFL level. A player who can step in immediately and stabilize a position that's quietly becoming a concern. That's not just good value, that's a calculated steal. And for Seattle, a team that has already shown they don't heavily rely on late-round picks to build their core, this becomes even more interesting. Instead of hopping to develop raw talent over time, you're converting uncertainty into production overnight. It's the kind of move smart contenders make when they know their window is open right now. But here, where things get a little complicated. Because when a deal looks this easy, when the price feels this low, there's always a reason. Maybe it's age, maybe it's long-term upside, or maybe it's something teams aren't publicly talking about. And that's the part that should make everyone pause. Because if the price is this low, what are other teams seeing that Seattle might be betting against? For the Seattle Seahawks, this move isn't just about talent, it's about timing. Because whether fans fully realize it or not, this team has officially crossed into a different phase. This is no longer a rebuilding roster. This is a team expected to compete for a Super Bowl right now. And that changes everything. When you're in this kind of window, you don't think long-term first, you think immediate impact. You prioritize players who can step in on day one, understand the system quickly, and perform when the pressure is at its highest. That's exactly where Kenny Moore II becomes so valuable. He's not a developmental piece, he's not a wait-and-see prospect, he's experienced, he's battle-tested, and most importantly, he understands what it takes to survive in high-stakes NFL situations. That kind of presence in a locker room can't be overstated. Because championship teams aren't just built on skill, they're built on trust. Moore brings a level of reliability that younger players are still trying to reach. He communicates, he adjusts, he reads offenses before the snap. And in a secondary where one mistake can change an entire game, having someone like that isn't just helpful, it's critical. Then there's the cultural fit. Under Mike Macdonald, Seattle is building a defense based on discipline, versatility, and intelligence. Moore fits that mold perfectly. He's the type of player who can move around the field, adapt to different roles, and execute without hesitation. Coaches love that, teammates rely on that. And let's not ignore the motivation factor. Reports suggest Moore wants to compete for a Super Bowl at this stage of his career. That urgency matters. Players chasing a ring bring a different level of focus, a different level of intensity. It raises the standard inside the building. For Seattle, adding someone with that mindset could quietly elevate the entire defense. Because this isn't just about filling a gap, it's about reinforcing a championship identity. But even with the perfect fit and perfect timing, there's still one concern that could change this entire decision. Everything about this move feels almost too perfect for the Seattle Seahawks, and that's exactly why some people around the league are starting to hesitate. On paper, adding Kenny Moore II checks every box. Proven production, veteran experience, affordable contract, low trade cost, immediate impact. It's the kind of deal contenders dream about. But in the NFL, when something looks this clean, there's usually a catch. And for some teams, that concern starts with age. Moore is 30 years old, and while that's not old in general terms for a defensive back, especially one who relies on quick reactions and agility, it can be a turning point. Some players maintain their level, others drop off fast. And the scary part? You don't always see it coming until it's already happening. That's the risk Seattle would be taking. Then there's the long-term question. If you trade for Moore, you're likely getting a short-term solution, not a foundational piece. Meanwhile, the draft still offers younger options with higher upside. Players you can develop, control for years, and potentially build around. So internally, the debate becomes clear. Do you take the safe, proven veteran? Or gamble on the future? And it's not just about Seattle. Rumors suggest other teams could quietly enter the picture if the price really is this low. Contenders looking for depth. Playoff teams needing one more piece. All it takes is one competing offer, and suddenly this easy deal becomes a bidding situation. Some fans believe Moore is being undervalued, and that whichever team lands him is getting a steal. Others think there's a reason the market hasn't exploded yet. And that uncertainty is what makes this decision so fascinating. Because this isn't just about adding a player, it's about making a bet. A bet on timing. A bet on experience. A bet that what you see right now is exactly what you're going to get. And if Seattle gets that bet wrong, the consequences might show up when it matters most.